The truth about night tournaments. Well, reality is far from what movies show you. So the night tournaments that we see in films are a far cry from the reality of these events in history. These tournaments, particularly popular in 10, 11, up to 14th century, the twilight of the medieval era, were born out of necessity, not chivalric spectacle. In those days, overabundance of knights crowded the lands, creating competition and diminishing their wealth in some way. There's too many knights and not enough land. Feudal knights were based, their wealth was based on the territory that they had, obviously. So the scarcity of resources often led knights to seek fame and fortune through combat. Thus, tournaments were born, not as elegant contests of skill, but as orchestrated battles between groups of knights. So actually, the real knights tournaments before 15th century, because those tournaments that they are showing you in movies, Hollywood movies especially, those tournaments happened, but in first half of 15th century, so basically at the end of the medieval and beginning of Renaissance era. So contrary to popular depictions, knights participating in these tournaments rarely knew each other personally. Instead, they identified allies and opponents by the banners they carried into the fray. As a gesture of respect, when a knight encountered a respected rival, if he really respected him, he would lift the visor of his helmet to make eye contact, a tradition that inspires the modern military salute. So the start of the tournament was often straightforward yet brutal. Knights wagered everything they owned before entering a combat. The battles were fought to the death, with the surviving group claiming all the possession of the fallen. It was a grim yet effective method to redistributing wealth among the knight class, middle class of medieval. So actually, if there was too many knights, those so-called tournaments were provoked. They were actually provoked real wars between two groups of knights. One such competition sought to crown, if you're talking about those tournaments from Hollywood movies from 15th century, one such competition sought to crown the greatest knight in the world, and that title ultimately went to a knight from the Kingdom of Poland, from the city of Krakow. That was the capital city of Polish Kingdom. His name was Zawisza Czarny, or a man who became the epitome of knight ideals during his lifetime. Because even during his lifetime, he was the most popular knight in the world. So, in the early 15th century, Zawisza, he journeyed to Spain, a nation that odds with the Poland at that time. By the time he arrived, Spanish legends had already cast him as a new mythical figure, a northern giant who lived in cave, hunting wild animals with his bare hands. He faced John of Aragon, a Spanish knight of colossal stature, standing as tall as Zawisza, at least 6 feet and 7 inches. Although this was extraordinary in an age when the average height was just 5 feet 6 inches. While Zawisza was lean, John had the build of a heavyweight wrestler, with rumors claiming that he could tie a horse's legs together and carry it on his shoulders to impress the ladies of the court. The Spanish princess, upon hearing of Zawisza, reportedly exclaimed she wanted nothing to do with the so-called, and I quote, barbarian from the north. However, when she saw him for the first time in the king's court, she was struck by his noble appearance, and mistakenly assumed that he must be Spanish, while believing the towering John from Aragon to be the Polish knight. The duel between Zawisza and John from Aragon was legendary. In their first pass, Zawisza, when they first dash, Zawisza executed a signature move, striking John's lance with his own and disarming him completely. He ripped off a lance from his hand. In the second pass, on the second dash, Zawisza struck John in the neck with his lance, but he didn't throw him he didn't took him down. Instead, as they crossed, he didn't unseat him when they were passing. After this struck the neck, he broke his lance. He didn't unseat him. Instead, as they crossed, Zawisza grabbed John from his saddle and pushed him to the ground. At this point, 500 soldiers rushed out from a nearby alley and surrounded Zawisza. The crowd erupted. Unsure whether the soldiers were protecting Zawisza from the mob or the mob from Zawisza. The Spanish king ultimately declared that while both knights were equally skilled, which actually, well, it was a joke, obviously. He declared that they were both were equally skilled, but Zawisza's physical strength had made the difference. A generous assessment, though history suggests Zawisza was both technically superior and stronger. So when comparing medieval and late medieval tournaments, the difference becomes clear. As for remarkable story of Zawisza, it serves as the testament to the enduring legacy of sheer value and strength. Well, the facts are those. Nice tournaments from the movies, we can say that they happened. They did. But in 15th century, through whole medieval, as I said before, tournaments were completely different thing. Okay, so I'm leaving you with this. Take care.